This debate is brought to you by Silver Horse Garage of Apex, North Carolina. As always, support those that support us.
Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate.
Nice to see you. Have fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so the entrance is diabolical. Nah, just playing. Trump comes in slow, and I would have to say that's probably on purpose. And it would be a tactic I would use as well. You come on slow, yet strong. You saw he's got good posture. He's not looking skittish. And all he has to do is just walk slow, and then she will come to him. Because the choices are, I can stand here in the middle. She'll look like a skittish cat waiting for him to come. Or she just goes all the way over and shakes his hand. And she's running, not literally, but she's got chicken speed on her. She pauses at her podium. She sees that his direction is going to be behind his podium. So she makes a decision that, oh, I look weaker because he's made a decision that he's not going to come over. So I'm being forced now to go to him so I don't look like the one that's messed up.
Nice to see you. Have fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to you both. It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their number one issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were...
I'm not really seeing much on them in this scenario. They came in pretty stressed, both of them. Even though he had a strong stance, has that underlying stress. We can just assume that it's this whole scenario. And then we have Kamala. She's standing very stiff, no real movement, and both of them are like this. So no difference in their underlying stress.
Elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid, and I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people.
She actually reminds me of Hillary in all her movements. And they all do the same thing. There's going to be quite a few times where they'll be like, oh, we watched that. There was a debate, remember? Back in the day, Trump and her were going at it. He said something not nice. She has the exact same head movement. And in this instance, you're seeing hand movements that mirror that whole debate back then. You want to know why? Because they practice. Remember the homework from the last video? This time she did her homework. Now we're going to skip through giant chunks of this because what we're looking for is the stressors. Is this whole thing making him nervous? Did this debate go as he wanted? One, if you've got a leader that is dumb enough to walk into another trap after all the crap he's been through, it doesn't give me confidence in the man. But if he's okay with it, well, you've got a leader that's confident in their plans. Like they knew that was going to happen, it's okay. Now, whether those plans work out or not is anybody's guess at this point. Let's get back to work.
Of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually...
See, it did go into stress there. Kind of, it looks like a furrow in the forehead. So pretty much it starts when it goes into aspiration and dreams of the American people. But it's more of a disagreement in the mind. There's no extra stressors like he's trying to run away from it. You're not seeing a lean away or a get away or look for an exit. You're not seeing any of those tells. So just a disagreement in words.
Plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing. And the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people.
And as we sit there and say that, he begins to dance. And in this one, it kind of reminds me of like Muhammad Ali. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest.
So she mentions a number, $6,000. She actually agrees with that. Just an FYI to the future of this country if he's in. But you're also watching his eyeballs track and really just go all around his brain, listening and comprehending. So he's taking in what she's saying. We're not seeing extraordinary stressors, nothing of that nature coming through.
Child tax credit that we have given in a long time so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children.
And more on Trump. So this is the biggest one they've given to us in a long time. You see his eyes go and his head and his body react to the side and up. It's almost like a body roll at this moment. The head is rolling with the equivalent of what an eye roll would be. He obviously disagrees with that statement.
My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to startup small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for...
So we see a positive head shake on that one. He's actually quite an open book. He's literally, if you just watch his head movements, he'll tell you what he agrees with her with and what he disagrees with her. You got the eye roll, we got a positive. Come on now. There's really not much hiding here. You just have to slow down, pay attention.
Billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that
was another eye roll. So, like I said, in watching him so we can see what's going on and how the brain is working, we've got a man who openly will sit there and advertise via his head and eye movements where he disagrees and where he agrees. When we're not seeing anything from him, I'd imagine because of the setting, this is a debate, that the brain is working of how to turn that around on how she phrased it.
that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation has, which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from
right there. That's the Hillary Rodham Clinton move. Our Miss Indian over here just had a very nasty, nasty surprise. Oh, we're moving on to the next subject. Uh-oh. Body wants to move away from that, steps to the side, head goes up, like tossing it, like, oh, Lord. He done set off nukes.
mental institutions and insane asylums.
And right there is another one. I know you've seen it. She gonna get him. Oh, shit. Now, we can't really see her hands, but it looks like they came together like the Godfather she is. She gonna get him. And they all act the same. Every one of them. They're well rehearsed. There's no difference. The uniparty is universal in their body language. They're very easy to spot.
And they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that she and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out.
And she's slitting her eyes the same way Miss Clinton did. Now, she's writing in between this. I'm going to assume it's her rebuff. And yes, I have heard all the talk about the earrings. But we're not getting into that. Like I said, I'm real curious to see how our potential leader over here is handling the barrage of nonsense from the 3 debaters that he has.
Fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad. But it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounce back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit.
She's really having a hard time with this. She kept doing it, and I was like, I'm going to ignore that tell. I don't really want to get into it. But she's doing it constantly. And guess what it is? It's that constant swallowing and smacking her lips because her mouth is so dry. It's like, dude, get some water. Take a sip. At this rate, you may need to chug some olive oil or something. Lube it up. But if she can't handle this debate right here without this much stress coming through, like how are you going to deal with someone literally pointing nukes at you and telling you to pound sand if you don't do what they want? Probably about as well as it's going right now. Blinken's doing it all, and he's screwing up big time.
16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
That's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors.
I see where her face said.
Self than he is in looking out for you.
That's just a soundbite. They gave her that.
Oh, man, they cut it. That's just a sound bite. All right, let's skip through here.
leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your response?
First of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar?
All right, he just cracks me up. I'm sorry. Wait, I'm talking now because her hyena was coming out. I guess that's another one of her tales, other than the fact that she likes to bounce when she lies. Reference past video. She cackles because she's a stress laugher. Her whole face lights up when she's in stress. And the cackling begins. I don't even know if I did that correctly. I have more of a bah laugh. I can't really do cackles.
She went out in Minnesota.
She doesn't really know what to do with herself. He just told her to shut up. She's over here claiming that he's a liar. And he pushes back with a snide comment. And she shuts up. Face goes tight, draws in. She wants to get away because, you know, just like any petulant child that's been told to shut up, they're embarrassed. Especially when they actually shut up. Oh, wow, he's got the upper hand.
We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you...
It's so quick. You see the side of his mouth move to the side. President in stressful situations. Heavily leaning on his podium. It's like a boxing match. And then you compare it to Kamala. She's not really battling. She's been flustered, we've seen that, but she's just writing.
6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them.
I'm going to sit there and go back because he's genuinely trying to get these people to see, look, my gosh, why are you against me? I don't understand. And it's mentally and emotionally frustrating. They don't care if they bring him over to their side. So emotionally, it doesn't stress them. There's no mental exhaustion there because they don't care about him. They care about their ideologies and themselves. And that's not exhausting. When someone cares about someone else and they're desperately trying to save them, that's exhausting.
The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, well, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just ask you,
David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle? They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask you.
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes, sir.
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi. But I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this. You talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Right. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
That.
You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016.
I do not think these moderators or the Indian woman really thought that he would just keep going. Because a lot of people would be so exhausted, they would just, their fighting spirit would slow down. But he's leaning on that podium for any kind of support he's got and digging right back at this moderator. Furrowed face, giving direct eye contact. He's not even looking at the Indian woman. He's just going at the guy who's accusing him of things that he says are wrong. He's had enough. You know, there does become a time when you get these kind of personalities like Trump's where they stop being nice. This would appear to be one of those times.
You can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them Republican.
No judge looked at it.
And said
they said we didn't have standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter, because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying?
This is crazy. Literally talking about a tweet or a post, whatever you want to call it, about if you're cheating, you will be prosecuted. And then the other side's response is, we will not let you intimidate us. What kind of nonsense is that? You know, I could sit there and see some shenanigans. I'd say something like, you know, we're not cheating. Stop saying crazy things like this. What is wrong with you? That would be normal. And what is Kamala? Look.
Which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us.
Obviously, at that moment, we can see that she's reliving mentally that tweet. They know. We've got her head cocked to the side and semi-back. She's not really moving. She's not in disagreement or agreement. Nothing like that. It's just, I'm going to stay still, which is pretty much a Heidi moment. She's trying to hide from it, which makes me think they are cheating.
I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't.
Oh my gosh. Seriously? The Indian woman? Why are you not talking to me with my pronouns? My pronouns are goat and badass.
I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words. So I'm asking.
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have.
Okay, so we had some stuttering there. She does not want to address this issue. We're looking down, our chin's tucked in. She's stepping away from it. She's coming back in. She's giving side glances to Trump. Really a whole lot of tippy-toe around this subject, even from her. I mean, if you're going to claim to be black, girl, own it. Or all those news medias and articles, videos of all sorts celebrating her Indian heritage. I don't know why that is a bad thing either. We can speculate why, but it seems pretty silly.
I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
I wanted to see how this ended. Yeah, I get tired of the lies too. He actually ended this quite strong. We don't get a whole big snippet of after his little end of the speech debate. We don't see them leaving, which would have been nice. He's leaning quite heavily. You see how his elbows are? They're not relaxed. They're actually holding strength to hold up on that podium, whereas the Indian woman's arms are much more relaxed. They're bent. The hands are just resting on top of the podium. He actually went to battle. She had to do theater. That's how I look at it. And yes, there's some bias in that. I guess because I don't like paying triple for my groceries. And now that you've seen that, I'm going to get back to building a chicken coop for winter.
If you like it, please share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.
If you'd like to learn more about analysing body language, there is a video course available on Mandy's website for Gold subscribers.